the Congress started following the Constitution and protect our voters. If we don't support Arizona and demand change, who will? Sincerely, Larry Westerlund, naval officer and former prosecutor. P.S. I would appreciate your vote for Congress. I knew you had to get that in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in there, it had to be in there. So.
I may have mentioned this the last time you were here, but all of these people that are just going so cuckoo over the law in Arizona, I always respond this way, and they're beginning to do it on national talk shows, too. In fact, I saw somebody do it on CNN last night. You know, well, how would you feel about a law that gave law enforcement officers no reason to stop anybody's? You just stop you dead in your tracks and say, let me see your papers. Oh, no, I could never support that. Well, that's the national law.
Right now, currently.
Yeah, that's the current federal law.
There is no need for reasonable suspicion.
Well, in Arizona, you've got to have that other reasonable suspicion on something else before you ask if you're a citizen or not.
Right, yeah.
So the national law, as it stands right now, as it has been for decades, is there's no reasonable suspicion for anything else, you know?
Right. For border enforcement, there's not. And, you know, this actually sets a higher standard. And
Exactly.
when they amended the law, they made it even clearer and much, much closer. It says, you know, you cannot discriminate based on any sort of race, national origin, pursuant to the California Constitution, or not California, Arizona Constitution and the United States Constitution. And then the other part of it is that people don't understand, and they don't say, is that they changed it so that you can't, it's not for any lawful contact. It's got to be a detention, arrest, or some sort of stop that is constitutionally based on another violation of some sort. You ran a red light, or you're traveling too fast, or you're bad tags, you're DUI, or some other crime before you can even start down the path of asking somebody about where they may or may not be from.
You're a former prosecutor.
Yep.
What did you think when Eric Holder said he hadn't read it yet? After all the pontification about we're going to do this, we're going to do that, have you read it yet? No, but I've been advised, and I think maybe I'll read it this weekend or whatever he said.
You know, unfortunately, it didn't surprise me too much. That's the kind of stuff that we get out of Washington, D.C., and particularly this administration, I think, all the time. You know what? Before the #1 law enforcement officer in the nation pontificates and takes a position one way or another, he had better not just read it, he better have studied it and had staff members come up and said, hey, this is why we think this position is the right position or not the right position. So, you know, unfortunately, given what we've got back in Washington right now, it doesn't surprise me that much. But it's hilarious that they got him pinned down, and he actually said, I think he was so stunned and taken off question that he actually spoke the truth rather than said, oh yeah, I've looked at it, you betcha.
I mean, I'm going, Eric, the one time you probably should have lied creatively, you know, and you're admitting this, and the president admits he hasn't read it, and I'm like, oh my God.
And I guarantee you there are hundreds of thousands of people, good people, people who are taking positions on this that they haven't read or taken a look at it at all.
And then, you know, you got the, not that I want to spend the whole hour on this, the fact that the president of Mexico comes in on our domestic terra firma and starts pontificating, to use that word again, about our laws in this country, and we just allow him to do it, no problem. Had it been President so-and-so, a Bush, God forbid, down in Mexico, saying, hey, Sinaloa, we don't like this law about, you know what would have happened.
Yeah, would have been ran out on a rail, if there was any way. But, you know, that's our tradition. We allow, you know, for crying out loud, Hugo Chavez comes up here and says the President of the United States smells like Satan. And we allow that to happen. You know, it's part of our tradition and what we do. Although they don't have a constitutional projection, not being citizens, to be able to do that, at least in my opinion.
I get up every morning now and I wonder what color the sun is going to be. You know, is it still yellow? I hope. It seems like there's so many changes every single day.
It's one thing after another.
What do you think about the recent water victories through the adjudication of Judge Wanger?
I think it is a step in the right direction. I know Judge Wanger, you know, he's a good guy and he's constrained by the law, and he has found that the federal government, surprisingly enough, didn't follow the law. Only my concern is that it will be short-lived. They'll go back, they'll take a look at that, they'll come to the same conclusions under the Federal Environmental Protection Act as well as the Endangered Species Act, and then it'll be shut down again.
Or this could be the key that opens the door to something different.
I hope so. I mean, ultimately, the law has got to be amended. It's got to be changed. And that's really not what the Endangered Species Act was intended to do. It was intended to save the bald eagle and the gray wolf and the grizzly bear, not, the smelt and the particular type of fairy shrimp.
This is the first time that a judge has ruled against the government in the Endangered Species Act. First time. First time. And it really has set jaws a-flapping in Congress. And it may open some eyes back there. And let's just hope that the dialogue continues. And, now he's got to move along to the smelt decision, the first one, and re-examine that. And if he were to come up with the same conclusion in that, Katie bar the door. I mean, it could be good news straight across the boards.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see. You're still out pounding the pavement, I assume.
That is correct.
Has there been any change in the priority of issues with the people that you're talking to, or are they still Johnny one note on one thing?
Well, the entire race has been one change after another, and it's really, at least in my opinion, it's been driven by what we have going on in Washington, the mess that we have in Washington, the mess we have in Sacramento. It was Obamacare. About 2 months ago.
But hasn't it died down a little bit?
Well, because people forget. We forget, and we're waiting to see the impact. They drove that legislation off, so that the real impacts will be seen in a year or 2 years or 3 years from now. So people aren't talking about that so much as they were at the time that it was initially passed. And what I'm concerned about is that people forget that. And that's what they calculate on in Washington, and people will lose that drive and that anger associated with that. And now, I think voters in the 19th won't forget about it, but you lose some of that passion over time. So then that's one thing. Then it walks right into, here we go with Arizona and immigration, which I guarantee you is being put off and put off and put off. You know what? The president didn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, and Arizona is now forcing them. What's happened in Arizona forced them to do that. And then we've got, it's one thing after another. Then we've got North and South Korea ending up, getting ready to go at it, potentially. Lord willing, it won't happen. But, there's a cascade of things coming down the line that changes really what people are focused on.
What about this situation going on now with Israel? And the recent situation with the flotillas and that particular group of ships trying to run the blockade in the Gaza, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, we have done a really good job of alienating our friend and the only true democracy in that region.
Haven't we?
Yeah, we have done it in spades. And here it is, they understand, you have to understand that they have blockaded. There is an official blockade on the West Bank, and they had every right to stop those ships, and they told them so. And so I think we have got to support Israel in this, and instead we've just gone ahead and thrown them to the wolves.
The wishy-washy response from the administration